Hi guys, good evening and welcome. I am Primus Veku and this is your tutorial series. In today's video, we will continue to look at the different uses of S3 and we are focusing attention today on hosting static website or static applications on S3. Last week, we looked at how to put data in S3 and crawl that data using the glue service, the glue crawler service, crawl the data, build a data catalog of that data, and query that data using the service called Athena. In today's edition of our program, we're going to design a simple website. We've designed a simple website, call it a simple web application, and we will host that application on S3, on the S3 static website hosting service. And that application will be fully secure. We'll make sure it's fully secured. So what we'll do is users should be able to access this application. So you see this user here in the internet. They should be able to access an application that is running or hosted in S3 as a static website. They should be able to make a request and access that application. But to access that application or that website, they need to pass through, first of all, Route 53. So create a record in Route 53. We'll first of all create a domain name in Route 53, and then create a hosted zone. And through that hosted zone, we should be able to hit this bucket. But before hitting that bucket, we will establish a CloudFront distribution in front of the bucket so that it caches and delivers our content quickly, right? And so to do that, we want to make sure that the application is secure. So we would have a certificate created in the AWS Certificate Manager service, right? And that certificate will make sure that the domain name is secured, the domain name that we bought, right? The DNS service that we will get is secured. So this is how this will look. We'll start off by first of all creating an S3 bucket. By the way, I'll first of all show you how to buy a domain name within this service. So first of all, we'll go buy the domain name. I've bought a domain name already, and I'll just show you how to buy yours if you want to follow this video, step by step. So I'll show you how to buy this, and then we'll come back to create a bucket, and we'll go on from there. All right, so let's get after it, guys. So let me end this show and go to AWS. So I'm logged into my AWS account. I want to go to Route 53. Route 53 is the service where you can purchase your domain name. So I've purchased a domain name here called Primus Learning AWS Series. So you see where you go to domain names, you go to Route 53. Just search for the service Route 53. All right, Route 53, go here and go to domain names and register a domain name. It's just like you can register name anywhere. You can buy it in GoDaddy, in Namecheap, and so on and so forth. So on AWS, you just need to go to register a domain and search for your domain. Mine was Primus Learning AWS Series, right? I did this one, and I first of all did this one. Something happened, it didn't go through, and then I did this other one. It will cost you like, say, $15 or $13. So say we want to buy a domain called Primus Learning AWS Series tutorial, right? Tutorial. We'll just search for it. So we've typed the name, search for it, and the different options will come, right? You see, you have a perfect match. This will be the domain name you want to buy. Just hit on select and go to proceed. So you've proceeded. It tells you it will charge you $13 per year, right? This is per year. And if you want to auto renew it, you select auto renew. If not, you just deselect that and go to next. It will ask you for your details. Is it a person who is buying? You provide your name, provide the rest of your details and your address and everything, and then go to next. Once you go to next, it will review your page. If everything is looking good, it will simply go ahead and create. Just hit submit, and that's it. You've created a domain name for yourself. So that's how you get a domain name registered for yourself, guys. So you can do that if you want to follow this video step by step. So I did that already, and I have a domain here called primuslearningaws.series.com. So I bought this domain specifically for you guys. I bought this domain specifically for these tutorials, these AWS tutorials. We use them in different scenarios, right? We use it in different scenarios for 1 year. That's why I bought it. All right. So make sure you have your domain already, and then you want to go to S3. You want to go to S3. If you don't want to use a domain, you can still follow this lecture without using the domain and simply just host your application on S3 and use the S3 URL that it will provide. All right, so come here and create a bucket. I want to create a bucket with the same name as my domain name. So I'll give it the name Primus Learning AWS Series.com. That's the to give. I want to put it in US East 1 North Virginia. Please put it in that region because we'll be creating a CloudFront distribution and it is available only in that region. All right, so let's go ahead, make that bucket public. You want to make that bucket public because it is publicly accessible, right? It is a website you're building, and so it should be publicly accessible. All right, and then you select this, you see it'll give you a warning. You have to select that warning. And the rest of the things, you can leave them as they are and create your bucket. So let's create a bucket. That's the first thing you do. You have to create a bucket and go into the bucket. Now, I want you to go to properties. Go to the properties section and scroll down, right down below where it says static website hosting. I want you to edit and enable it. So you're enabling because you want to host your website on this S3 bucket. Now here, I want you to put index.html, which will be your HTML page. That's like the website file, right, that you're creating. And if something is failing, it should direct you to an error page. So you put error.html here. So it's just an HTML script that will redirect you in case something is failing, right? In case you're not able to hit the index.html page. Once you've done that, simply hit on save. Now we've enabled and we have an S3 URL, right? You see, we have an S3 URL we can go to see this web page. But you know that we have not created anything. We have not uploaded any files in this bucket. And there are still a couple of things that we need to do. You need to go to permissions. Although you made this bucket public, right? Remember, you made this bucket publicly available. Although you made the bucket public, you haven't enabled. Sorry, this is a different bucket. It's this one. You haven't enabled the permissions. You need to add the permissions that are needed for accessing this bucket out of here. So you need to go to your bucket policy. You see the bucket policy written in JSON provides access to the objects stored in the bucket. Bucket policies don't apply to objects owned by other accounts. So you want to grant access to all the objects stored because once you're accessing this website, you're trying to access a file that is stored, file or files that are stored inside that S3 bucket. So for that reason, we will have put some this script here. It's simply a JSON file that tells you, so this one should be a simple JSON file, right? You see, it's a JSON, simple JSON script here or file that is allowing access to this bucket. So all I'm defining here is I'm allowing access, get object. I'm allowing get object to anyone to this bucket called AWS Primus Learning AWS series.com. So anything that is stored inside this bucket, you see, that's why we have the star here. Anything that is stored inside this bucket, anyone from anywhere can get it, right? Can access it. So I'll do that and save these changes. So I've saved these changes. Now I can go ahead and upload files in this bucket. You see, so we've created the first thing, which is the bucket. We've enabled some actions on it, which like some permissions on it. We've enabled the static website hosting part of it. And now we want to go ahead and add content into it, right? We want to upload some files in this bucket because those are the files that we want to see, right? So you need to upload the files. So I have some files here that we'll upload. We'll upload a couple of files. So let's go to here in my documents and scroll down to here. I'll explain the files later. Then go to S3. So I have the code that I want to upload right here, right? So first of all, upload these two, just two upload because I'm selecting files here. If I were selecting folders, these ones will upload. So I'll first of all upload these two. They are the two HTML pages that will upload. So we have the error page and the index.html page. So those ones have uploaded. The next ones that I want to upload, you see I've uploaded two. Now I want to upload a folder. So normally I'll upload one by one. I'll upload the images folder because I want to display that image on my website. So there's a file inside that image file or image folder, and that has been uploaded. I want to upload the next one, which is a CSS folder. The CSS folder contains the styling of the page, right? The page has to be nice a little bit. That's why it has some CSS data in it. So you see, I want to upload this folder called CSS. And go ahead and hit upload and upload. So I've uploaded the CSS folders. Let's see. Let's make sure everything looks good. Yes, everything looks good here. We have our CSS, we have our index.html, we have our error page, and we have our images page. Now, if I go back to properties, right? And go to this link, I should be able probably to access the web page. And here we go. We have successfully created a web page on S3. Although you see that it's currently not secure, but we have created a website and we have hosted that website, and anybody anywhere in the world can access this bucket using this link right here. That is neat, right? That is quick. That is how you can use S3 to host a website. But it doesn't end there. That's not the last thing we want to do. We are still here. So we created the S3 bucket, uploaded some files in there, and all we've done is dealt with this. We've added permissions, we've added some files in there. We have not done any other thing on this side, right? So we want to ensure that when a user is accessing that file or that website, he's accessing it securely. So it should have some SSH enabled on it. And so we'll create a certificate here, and we'll create a CloudFront distribution that enables that user to be able to access the content quickly. It will still look at CloudFront, the uses of CloudFront, why CloudFront. But for now, understand that it is used to help cache the data so that as you're accessing the website, if you access the first time, the second time, it will be quick. You'll be accessing it directly from where you are because it will be served from a cached location, right? It will be cached already and it's delivered to you by the Amazon's CloudFront distribution network. All right, and we'll ensure that a certificate is built on top of it. Now we've created and uploaded the files. The next thing that we want to do then is securing our website through a certificate. So we want to go to this part right here. All right, but before we go to this part, let me just show you what the files look like, right? let me just show you. Let me just clear my screen here and show you what those the files that I uploaded to S3, how they look like. Let me open a new window because I don't want to close this one for now. And in this new window, I'll open a folder. So I'll go to that folder where those files are stored, right? We went here and went to recovered and went to S3. And this is the folder that I want to open. So I want to open this repository right here. It's a repository that I cloned down from GitHub. I did it and put it on GitHub, the last video that I did. So I will just, this is the repo I will share with you guys, and you can use it to play along with it and all that. So you see, this HTML page is a simple HTML page. We are simply defining the simple structure of an HTML page. You see it out here. And then we are giving it some details, some nice titles. You see the nice titles here and font and all that. And defining some colors and all that. It's a simple basic HTML page. This one is a simple error page, which will tell you the error if your HTML is not working correctly. It will just fall with you back to here. It will just tell you, hey, an error occurred while processing your request. Then the images page, we have an image inside. This is the image. Your website will look something like this. This image will be at the back side of, or at the back end, or call it at the background, sorry, of your website. All right, and then the CSS is just the styling of the page, right? It's the style that we've made for this page, right? So we simply have different styles that we've made. This is the style right here. These are the color combinations that we've made for the page. All right, so this is all what I uploaded to S3, right? I simply uploaded this file, and these two. These ones have to be at the root of the S3 bucket, and these ones would have to be uploaded like this, right? That's exactly what we did. So we simply went here into S3, and if you don't upload them well, your website will not display. You have to upload them correctly, right? So we went to S3, inside our bucket. Remember, this is the bucket called Primus Learning AWS Series.com. Went in there and uploaded these first files, 1, 2. We uploaded these first. And then we went to upload, and instead of selecting single files, we selected a folder and then picked the first folder, which was the images folder. Then the second time we picked the CSS folder, so that those are uploaded as folders here, such that they are uploaded as folders here. Because these pages will need to access, sorry, this page will need to access the images from here, and this page will need to access this CSS information in here. So they all work together. They all are bound together. So that's why we're uploading it this way. If you don't upload it this way, it won't work for you guys. All right. So that looks good. Let's go to the next service. I told you the next service is the certificate manager. So we want to go to certificate manager and create a certificate for ourselves. We need a certificate. What's the use of the certificate? You see that this website right here, where is the website? This website right here says your connection to this site is not secure. That means there is no certificate that has been installed on this application. It is not secure. You should not enter any sensitive information on the site, for example, passwords or credit cards, because this could be stolen by attackers. Anybody can attack this page because, of course, there is no certificate on it. It's not been secured through a certificate. It needs to be issued a correct certificate by a certificate provider. And so what we want to do is go to AWS and request a certificate. So let's get here and request. What kind of certificate do you want to request? We want to request a public certificate. That's what we want to do here. All right. So we'll go ahead and request the public certificate, and we'll give it the same name as our domain name. We'll give it Primus Learning AWS Series.com. right? You see, that's the name that we bought, the domain name that we bought, and it's the same S3 name, the same name that we gave for our S3 bucket, guys. And then here you want to say DNS validation. It is the recommended method. We want to validate through DNS. How are we validating? We are validating against that domain. So it needs to be able to you have some records that match the records of the domain name of the domain provider, right? So once you do this, it will create some records for you. This is the same thing as if you had the record, if you bought the domain name from a different provider, you will be asked to put some name servers on there once you create the record. All right, so go ahead and do the request, right? You see, that's all you do, and request. So you see, view certificate, the certificate is pending. So for us to create records in Route 53, because we need to it needs to ensure that we are the owners of that domain that we want to secure, right? You need to create a record. So go here and create a record. You see, it will say you want to create a record on this. It will select that, and you say yes. So you go ahead and create a record. That's all you do. Just click on create record and create record. So click on create record. Let's see. It's taking its, why is it not clicking? Let's see if we missed something. Let's refresh. I think it should be creating it. Something is happening to it. So let's go back to certificate. The certificate is issued. Yeah, so the record looks like the record was created. Was it created? Yes, the record was created. So this is the record. It created a record, and this is a CNAME record and all that. So if you go now to Route 53, you should be able to see that there is a record that has been created on that domain name. So let's verify that. Let's go to Route 53 and do that on a new page. So if you go to this page, you see you have your hosted zone, and inside your hosted zone, you see your domain name. Click on the domain name, and down here you should see some records. CNAME has been created, and these are some names. This is a name server, this is the SOS. So different things have been created. If the domain was created elsewhere, you see these things, you would have gotten these things to put and verify, but this was created in AWS, so you don't need to verify this anywhere. That's the name servers. All right, so we've created a record. The CNAME has been created, which means that certificate has been mapped to this domain. You see, that certificate has now been mapped to this domain. And this domain will be secure once we finish creating whatever we are creating, right? This domain will be secured. Why? Because it has verified and mapped to this certificate. It has said, hey, we are the owners of that domain name. That's like what we did. We are the owners of that domain name, and so you can go ahead and use this certificate on that domain. That's exactly what we just did. All right, so this part right here has been done. We've created this part. We already created the Route 53 domain, so we bought the domain. We've created this part and this part. Now let us go to this part. We need to create this part and then map it with this, because these two have to work together, right? We have to create this part and map it with this. As we're creating this, it has to be linked with this, and then it's mapped here so that all of them work together. Now let's go to the service called CloudFront. You see, CloudFront is a global content delivery network that AWS hosts, right? It is a service that AWS offers, and it helps to accelerate reliable and secure content delivery for Amazon S3 buckets, application load balancers, API gateways, and other things, right? In just a few minutes. This is what AWS says about it. Amazon CloudFront is a fast content delivery network service that securely delivers data videos, applications, APIs, and so on and so forth globally with low latency and high transfer speeds. So once you click on it on your, and you're trying to access your content, AWS will, the first time you do that, AWS will come to the S3 bucket and fetch that content from there. The next time you want to access that same link, it will the first time it catches or caches, the term is cache. It caches it right where you are, near you, right? In a content delivering edge location near you, right? So that the next time you're accessing that video, that website, that content, it is serving directly from near you. And the latency will be really good and high speed. That's all that it does. So we'll go ahead and create a CloudFront distribution. So we'll choose the distribution we want to create. And you see the S3 distribution, the S3 origin will come up because it sees it, right? It sees it. So our domain name or our S3 bucket was primuslearningawsseries.com. That is what we want to select here, right? We select that, and it says this S3 bucket has static web hosting enabled. If you plan to use this distribution as a website, we recommend using the S3 website endpoints rather than the bucket endpoint. So let's select this because we want to use it, right? We want to use that distribution, and it will run on port 80. It will run on port 80. All websites, they would typically run on port 80. All right. We'll leave this path the way it is. Nothing. We don't put anything here. And we go down, enable so the name, it will pick up this name, enter a name for this origin, it will pick up this name, the website name, right? Or the S3 endpoint name. That's what it will pick up. You leave these ones as default, and then here select redirect HTTP to HTTPS. We want every HTTP request to be sent to HTTPS so that it is secure. That's all you want to do there. And then you scroll down, leave the rest as they are, and go right to the bottom, leave everything as they are, and on certificate, on custom SSL certificate, choose the certificate that you created. And here's the certificate we created. We created a certificate named primuslearningawsseries.com, and here is it. We want to select. So you've selected the certificate. It was verified already. And now everything looks good. Select this one or leave it default. And the HTTP you want to use is /2. Leave it as it is. And that should be looking good. And you simply create your distribution. Oh, something is missing. Please choose security options. So we do not want, just select this one. Do not enable security protections. Keep your application secure from the most common threats and security. This is when you want to enable web application firewall on it, but for now, this is just a demo. We don't want to do that. All right, we'll go ahead and create our distribution. The distribution will take a while to create, right? It usually takes a while. It will be deploying for a moment. Even when you're creating through Terraform, this would take a moment to deploy. So you see, it shows here that it is still deploying. So it will take a couple of minutes to deploy this, and then we'll continue. Remember, we said we'll create the same thing from the console and use Terraform again to create this same setup. So the first setup, you see, we are passing through a manual process to make this website work, to create this website and to host it and all that. Couple of steps. You see, there are a couple of steps that we are passing through. Now, once we create this, all of this, and make it work, we will delete it and then recreate it using Terraform. And you see how easy it will be to create it using Terraform. All right, so you see that it's still running. It should run for about two minutes or so to create this, to completely deploy. So you can go back to distributions and see that there's a distribution here. This is the distribution, it's still creating. You have the security aspect of it. which we didn't enable, right? We didn't enable the web application firewalls. So web application firewalls help keep your application secure, catch any bugs and things. But since this is just a demo, we are not doing that. Then the origins here is the origins we selected, right? We selected our S3 bucket endpoint as our origin. So this is the origin from where CloudFront will be distributing, right? And it is a static website. And then we have our error pages, we have our invalidation rules. Invalidation rules are very important. If you keep updating and changing data quickly, that data may take some time to reflect on your CloudFront distribution. And so you need to invalidate the older caches. So it caches the data, right? It caches it near you the first time you access it. The second time, if you have uploaded new files, it probably will pick up the old cache, right? So to clear off that cache, you need to create an invalidation rule. So to create an invalidation rule, you simply do this and put a / there and a star and create an invalidation rule. It will invalidate everything for you guys. So we'll not do this for now. We'll just leave it as is and wait for it to complete deploying. So it's still deploying. So I will just pause this and wait for it to deploy, and then we'll get back to it. So it completed its work. Now it is completely deployed. So if you go to this thing, you should be able, or if you go to this distribution domain name here, you should be able to access that website. We are assuming that we should be able to access that website from here, right? And so you see, we are able to access the website from here. We are able to generate a password. By the way, this is a website that is really good. You can deploy something like this and even sell for those who want to be doing good passwords, right? You can automatically generate passwords, good passwords from here, guys. It has really good characters. You see, it generates a 10 characters long password. You see, it automatically generates. This is very good. There are some people who can actually do this as a business, right? And be selling strong passwords. This is very good. All right. So you can see that the page is accessible from here. Now, it is not yet accessible from Primus Learning AWS series, right? .com. It is not yet .com. Sorry, not that one. Series.com, this one. It is not yet accessible from here. Why is it not yet accessible from there? Because what we just did is we've created this CloudFront distribution, but we have not enabled it to be able to talk with Route 53. So we need to go to our Route 53 and create a record called an A record. And on that record, we are selecting an alias which is coming from CloudFront, so that when you access the website to pass through Route 53, Route 53 will route you through CloudFront because you want to serve your website through a domain, through a content delivery network. And then it will access that certificate and serve you back with it with a request. The first time the request will hit here and pass through all of this and come to you. The second time, that request will not need to go far off wherever that bucket is stored. You access it right from your distribution center and bring it back to you, right? So that is how this will work. So let's go to Route 53 again. So you see we are going back to Route 53 now to enable it so that it talks with that CloudFront distribution network that we've defined. So we'll go to Route 53, type Route 53 there, and select Route 53. You see we are going back to Route 53. Go to your hosted zone. Click on the hosted zone, and then click up here. Now we have 3 records here. Remember, we showed you there were 3 records. The A record is not yet there, right? So we want to create a record. We want to create a record here. So click on create a record, creating a record under this hosted zone. Leave this record empty. You could create subdomains if you wanted, but this one is just empty. You have to leave it empty because the website you want it to send to is this one, or the URL or the domain name. Now it has to be an A record. You want it to be an A record. Select the A record and give it as an alias here. So select this alias. And on the alias, you want to choose CloudFront distribution, right? That's what you want to select. So you have to search for CloudFront. You see the alias to CloudFront distribution. You select that, and you see it automatically picks US East 1 because I told you this distribution, the CloudFront distribution, is just on US East 1. Now, oh, looks like we created, it's not picking any distribution, any CloudFront distribution. An alias to a CloudFront distribution and another record in the same hosted zone are global and available only in US East 1. So we're expected to have created our S3 bucket in US East 1. It looks like we didn't create it in US East 1. So let's refresh and see. Maybe we did and something is happening. So let's take alias again. Let's refresh this. I think we did. If not, we'll correct that. All right, so A record and alias. Choose a CloudFront and see. So we found nothing here. So let's go back to our distribution or CloudFront. You can just search that and make sure that this is global, but you have to make sure that everything here is correct. Let's go to our S3 bucket and see what's happening there. S3. And see where our S3 bucket is created. So this is created in US East 1. That's correct. And we'll go back to our distribution or CloudFront distribution. Make sure this is correctly deployed. So this is deployed here. And it's a production distribution. Let's make sure this rule is correct. S3 US East 1, S3 US East 1. Let's go to the certificate. Probably the certificate could have been created somewhere else. Let's go to the certificate. So hold on, let me just cross-check everything. Let me edit here to make sure we are in the correct place. Everything looks good. Let's go back to our certificate. So we're verifying everything to make sure that everything looks good. So a certificate has been issued. Let's see where it was issued. North Virginia. Our certificate is issued in North Virginia, which is where we want to be. And so why is it not seeing our distribution? Now let's go back to Route 53. Route 53 and see. Hosted zone. And go to this. Let's edit hosted zone and see if everything looks good here. Everything looks okay to me. Now let's go back to create a record. I want to create a record, leave this as this, and alias this, select, let's see. So we are doing CloudFront distribution. Why is it not picking up? This is strange. Strange that this distribution is not picking up. So let me do something. Let's try to do this and see. we can do this, but it will not be serving. We can do this and point to the S3 bucket, but it will not be serving through the content delivery network that we just defined. So what I can do is I can do this, come back here and simply copy this. Simply copy the distribution. So let me open a new tab. Oops, sorry. Let me open a new tab and go to the distribution. I think it's actually this one. This is the distribution. Just copy this and go back to Route 53 and put this here. Let's see if that works. I think it's that way. Let's create it and see if it will. Oh, yeah, it won't work. Yeah, so I don't know why this distribution. You know what? I will be back. Let me pause this and figure out what's happening, and I'll be coming back. Hey guys, so I quickly found out why it was not showing up. So let's go back to CloudFront. We missed a step. We missed to add an item on the CloudFront distribution settings. So I quickly created a new one, right? So you see we have a new distribution that just created. I disabled this other distribution. So in this distribution, we forgot to add one item. You see where it says add item? We forgot to add this item. When you don't add this item, that distribution will not show up because the distribution is created with this CNAME, right? Alternate domain name CNAME. And you need to add the custom domain name that you use in URL saved this distribution. So when I added this and recreated the distribution, if we go now to Route 53, which is where we were before, and go back to our hosted zone, and go into our hosted zone. Now, if we create a record and select the same things and want to do alias and select the CloudFront distribution, now it should show up here. You see, it's picked up that name, the Primus Learning, and this is the distribution. You want to leave it at simple routing. There are different routing strategies. We'll discuss them once we start working on Route 53 proper. But for now, just select the simple routing and create your record. Your record would take a couple of minutes. Sometimes it may even take like up to a day or so, even an hour or so. So this is usually just chance. It's what we call time to live, or TTL. TTL just works that way. So let it run. It will show synced or active before you can access this website right here. So hopefully the distribution is working, the new distribution that I created. So let me go back to that distribution. So let me test this one. If this one is not working, then the other one will not work. So this one needs to work for the website to work properly, right? So let's go here. Yep. So this one is working. So let's go back. You see in sync. So this one is in sync. Now, if we go to our website again and try, hopefully it should work. Yes, that's it. It's working, guys. So you see that this website now is secure. It's secured through, you see, it's secured through a certificate that is provided by AWS. And if you look at that certificate, you see your information, for example, password or credit card is private when it is sent to this. And then this is the certificate. You will see that it's offered by Amazon. You see the certificate, this is the certificate keys. This is valid. It is valid and expires on Sunday, April 27th, 2025. So it's valid for 1 year. And the organization that offers it is Amazon, right? So it's offered by Amazon. This is the organization. And the certificate name is this, the certificate name. And you can see more details about it right here. So you see, we have completed our tutorial for this one, right? For the terminal, rather from the console aspect of it. So you see, this user right here, who is me, I'm able to go to my website, primuslearning.awsseries.com, and really just browse and do my things, right? Securely, it's safe. Nobody will know that this is a website that is hosted by S3. So some organizations do their static website on S3 like this, and you'll never ever know that it is S3, guys. This is an application. Somebody can actually sell this. Maybe you can sell it out there. Right. So this is working, guys. All right. So we did this manually. Let's go ahead and delete this. So first of all, have to go to CloudFront. I think we need to delete that distribution. We are not deleting the domain name. We're deleting the distribution first. So it will take some time. These distributions you have to disable, and it takes time to disable before you can delete. So we'll delete this one. You see, this one is up for deletion. You have to delete these things because they will cost you if you don't, guys. So please go ahead. You see, it's deploying. After a couple of minutes, I'll come back here and delete. Then I'll be able to go and delete the certificate. If you don't delete this one, you won't be able to delete the certificate. CloudFront costs a little bit, guys. So please make sure that you delete it. Make sure you delete it. It's important. So as we delete this, we can go back to Route 53. Go to Route 53 and delete the hosted zone. Not the hosted zone, but the record. Let's delete the record from it. So we are not using that record. So we've just deleted the other one. You see, we have 4 records. Go delete the A record. This is what we want to delete. Once we delete the certificate, this one will be deleted. So we delete this one. And then you want to wait for the CloudFront distribution to wrap up its work. When it says it's deployed, it's done. So it will take a couple of minutes to do this, guys, even when we do it through Terraform. So this is the first method we're doing this. We'll do the second method through Terraform, but we want to clean up this environment and go to S3. Let's go to S3 and delete the bucket. So we want to go to S3 and delete that bucket and all its data. So let's go to S3. This is the bucket. We want to delete this bucket. You see, it's publicly accessible because we opened it up, right? Since want to delete all this content, just click on delete and say permanently delete. Just copy this, delete, because permanent may be difficult to spell. All right, we delete these objects and make sure the bucket is empty, and we can delete the bucket. So the bucket is empty. Let's go back and delete this bucket. This is the bucket Primus Learning AWS series. All right, we want to delete and copy the bucket name, put there and delete. See all these manual steps. We have a lot of manual steps in this process. All right, so deleted that. Let's go back to CloudFront distribution and see if it's done. No, it's not done yet. That's the last thing we want to delete, and go to the certificate and delete. If we don't delete this one, the certificate will not be able to delete. So let's ensure that this is deleted. Let's give it a moment. I'll just pause this video so it doesn't get too long. Okay, as I was just pausing, it just came back. So we'll go ahead and delete and delete. So we've deleted the distribution. Let's go now to the certificate. So certificate manager. Want to go to the certificate and delete any certificate that is there. So this certificate was issued, delete it for us, and just hit delete here and delete. All right, so the certificate has been deleted. We don't have any certificate yet. So this was the first method. We manually created it and moved from place to place. I even forgot some items. You see, with a manual process, you can make mistakes, just as I made a mistake and didn't add that item on the distribution. And so it was not working. Imagine you have to do this in 10 environments. You're running this type of website in 10 environments. Will you go manually doing this? That is hard. And so we want to do this, the same thing through Terraform. I have a Terraform script that I've written just for this, right? So this is a Terraform script right here. I hope I've not messed it up a little bit. So I'll expand this and just explain. So don't worry about these other ones. These are the ones we did for the previous sessions. So the only thing you're worried about here is this right here. So I created a folder inside our Primus Learning series folder. The folder is called S3 static website, and then I seeded into it. If you don't go into it, it will not affect these other files. So you don't need to worry about any other file here. The only thing we're looking at is the one above, not these ones down here. Is what is inside here. And inside here, you see there are some files in here, but that's we don't want to worry about this one. We just want this right here. You see, these you can even delete. If I delete this, that's because I tested this before this tutorial, right? So we can delete this and delete this. Nothing. I will delete the state file, but never delete a state file in your environment. I'm deleting this because it is just a tutorial. In your environment, your state file will probably be stored in a different location, in a remote location like S3 and DynamoDB. So you ever delete that file. Know that and know peace. All right, guys, this is all I'm doing right here. So this, let me increase the, let me increase the size here. So you see what I'm doing? I'm simply creating the provider. So this provider is the AWS provider that we are using to Terraform. If you are still new to this, or if this is your first time watching this video series, you will have to go back and watch the beginning, because we started off by showing how to install Terraform and how to use Terraform. All right, we have our AWS access configured. The first videos we showed how to configure that, how to create a user and do AWS configure and pass the secret access, the secret key and the secret access keys, so that you will have access to your AWS environment through the CLI. We also install the CLI. So if you are not aware of the process, please go back and watch our first videos and then get back here. All right, so the first, we've done that, we've defined our provider, and the first results we're creating is an S3 bucket. You see, we'll create an S3 bucket called Primus Learning AWS series. But before this step, you need to have that domain name bought already. You need to have it bought in your AWS. So you see, the first step that we did here was we went to AWS and bought a domain name. I showed you how to buy it because I bought mine. It may take a while to buy, right? So I bought mine before this tutorial. All right, so the first results we want to define is creating an S3 bucket. And the S3 bucket would be named Primus Learning AWS series.com. And we want to create a website on it. We want to enable the website feature. You saw us, we went to properties and scrolled right to the bottom and enabled the S3 website. And we did that with by adding the index.html page, so that this is the page it will serve to, and if there is an error, it will redirect to the error.html page. And you saw me when I was uploading the two files called html index.html and error.html to that bucket. All right, so it's the same thing that we're doing here, right? And then I added a force destroy here because sometimes you would have files that you upload files and forget them in the bucket, but this, you could actually just remove this. It's a bad practice for production. but this enables the deletion of objects in the S3 bucket. So you can't delete it on the S3 bucket when there's data inside. That's why I put that. All right. So the next resource you want to create, remember, this is what you're creating through Terraform. So the first thing we've defined is our S3 bucket, and we've enabled the website on it, right? We've enabled that website feature on it. That's what we did up there in this code. Down here, we want to create the AWS bucket public access block. So we want to you remember where we opened up access to that bucket to the public, right? You will use this resource in AWS, right, called the AWS S3 bucket public access block. You use that and pass it to false down here. So you pick up your bucket up there. So you remember the last video when we were talking about Terraform, I said you could use this block when you're using a resource block. You can declare a resource of a given type with a given local name, and the name is used to refer to the resource directly elsewhere, but inside the same Terraform module, right? It can't be outside this module, and that's why we're defining it here. So we're using the AWS S3 bucket that we've defined up there, and then dot my bucket, which is the logical name of the bucket, dot the bucket ID. That's just what we're doing there. And then we're simply passing, making it, passing everything, block public ACLs equals to false. We're not blocking anything from the public. We want everybody in the internet to be able to have access to it because it is a website, right? Everybody from the internet should be able to have access to it. The next resource we are creating is the AWS S3 bucket policy. Because this bucket, remember, we created the bucket and went to permissions and went to bucket policy and copied this policy right here and put on it to allow everybody from the internet. There are two things. The bucket is different from the objects that are in the bucket. So there are two permissions that we are granting. We granted public access, so making the bucket completely public. And then now we're making the objects in the bucket public in terms of getting them. You can get the objects from the bucket, any object that is in the bucket. So when you browse a website, you want to actually you're doing a get API request, you want to get something from that S3 bucket. That is what we're doing right here, right? So we want to give it that permission so that people can be able to browse. And so we're doing it through this policy here. So this is the policy. You see the allow. We're allowing people to get objects from a resource. And what's that resource? The S3 bucket, and we've defined the bucket up there. And who is that? Everybody. Okay, so the third resource we're creating here is the AWS certificate. You see, we have the certificate here. We need to create it as well. So we are defining that block of resource right here. We want to call it my cert, and the domain name that we want to connect to this certificate is the Primus Learning AWS series.com domain, which we bought earlier. And remember, when we're creating the certificate, we selected the validation method to be DNS. That's when we're just creating the certificate. This is it that you're passing right here. So we've created this resource right here, and we want to go to the next resource. Let's go back to our script. So the next resource on our script is the AWS CloudFront distribution, right? And the distribution, the origin of the distribution is that S3, right? And the origin ID is just your S3 bucket ID, and that's it. And then you also want to enable a default root object. You could leave this empty, but you could also enable it. We're enabling it and saying, hey, the root object for this website is called index.html. That's the main file that people will be accessing, the index.html. That's why it's defined here. And then the alias, remember, we're picking up the alias in Route 53. The first time we did not add that alias and it was failing us. So we will be picking up Primus Learning AWS series, and that's why we added it here. The default behavior, while we're creating that distribution, remember these were default behavior. The get was default, all these values were default. So we have to add them here. And then the redirect, remember the redirect we selected? The redirect we selected was what? Redirect to HTTPS. We redirected to HTTPS. So from HTTP, you are directing any traffic. HTTP is just open to the internet. Everyone is accessing it. It is not secure. But when any request is made, whether it's a simple blank request, it should go to HTTPS and be secured. And how will it be secured? Through the certificate that we've created. Remember, we created a certificate, right? And so you see that the distribution is connected to that certificate. That's what you're doing there. The next resource we are creating is the Route 53 record, right? We are creating a record, an AWS Route 53 record. And the record ID is this. You have to manually go and copy the record ID. So remember, when you go to Route 53, let's search for Route 53. We have a hosted zone. That hosted zone has a record ID. So we have to come here. Remember when you created this domain, it created all of these details for you. So once you come here and expand this is where you get the hosted zone ID. So it's the hosted zone ID that you want to get and put here. You put the hosted zone ID to create that record. And then the name is Primus Learning AWS series.com. And all of these have to be defined correctly. So this is the alias. Remember the alias, when we selected alias, we turned on alias and we're able to select the CloudFront distribution, right? We selected the CloudFront distribution, and that is what we're doing here and defining the health as well. So this is all that this script is doing, guys. Simple script, and once you launch this, you should be able to create the same type of resources that you created. But there's a caveat. We have not uploaded the files yet. Once you create this and it finishes creating, you have to upload the files. So I have a command that we use to upload the files to S3, right? You could do that from here, but it will get a little bit complex. I didn't want it to get complex. I wanted it to be as simple as it is right now. All right, so we'll go ahead and do Terraform init. Remember, I told you the first thing you run is Terraform init to pull down or to download. Sorry, I didn't do that correctly. Terraform init. Yep. So you do this to download your providers and everything that is needed. You see it's downloading, initializing provider plugins, finding latest version of HashiCorp, installing HashiCorp AWS version this, and it's pulling down everything. It's installing what you need to run the script. So it will take a couple of moments to do that. Once it does that, okay, it's done that successfully. We can clear our screen and do Terraform plan just to see what Terraform will create for us, right? You could do that. Let me just drag this screen a little bit up so that you can see the results well. All right, so we want to plan and see the number of resources that Terraform will create for us, what it will create and all that. There's an argument that is deprecated, no problem. We are interested only in what Terraform is creating. You see, these are the things that Terraform will create. It tells you that it will create how many resources down here. Terraform will add 6 resources and it will change nothing and blah, blah, blah. All right, let's clear our screen again and do Terraform apply. So this is the apply. You want to use -- auto approve. I don't want to say yes when it's running. It will take a while to create all of these resources. Why? Because it will create them the same way we're creating in the terminal, in the console, right? It will take the distribution. It takes a while to create a distribution. It takes a while to destroy it as well. So you see, it will go ahead and create the bucket. So I think it's created a bucket. and all that. So while it's creating these resources, we can go ahead and run a command to do what? And run a command to um, to upload the files in the bucket, because if it creates the bucket already, why not already run? So it's created a bucket, it's completed creating the bucket. You see, creation of bucket is complete. So if you go to AWS now and go to S3, you should see a bucket that is already existing, right? You should see a bucket that is already existing with the expected name, the AWS, the Primus Learning AWS series bucket. And here you go. This is the bucket. And now we can already, you see, it's publicly enabled through that screen. And if you go to properties, as I explained, you go to properties and scroll down, you see that the website is already enabled. This is the website section, it's already enabled. If you go to permissions, you see that the S3 permissions have already been added to it and everything is looking good just through that script, guys. While the script is still running, oh, something failed on the script. Creating CloudFront distribution invalid viewer certificate. The specified certificate doesn't exist, isn't in use, isn't in US East 1 region, isn't valid. All right, so that's fine. Doesn't include the certificate chain. Okay, that's okay. So let's see. Let's figure out what's happening here. So it's saying that a certificate that we're trying to use, oops, hope I've not messed this up. Where are we trying to use a certificate? The results, are we trying to do a validation or somewhere? So we'll rerun this in a couple of moments. I think it will create that certificate and then we'll rerun it in a moment. So let's go ahead and upload the files to S3. So the command you can use to upload files to S3, right? This is the command. And the bucket we want to upload to is this. Remember, we said you could do copy or you do sync or anyone. So we're choosing to use sync today. And we're copying the content of all of this bucket, right? Remember the contents in this bucket, we want to copy them to S3. So we'll just hit this and run. So we've uploaded the files into S3. Look at, so if you go into S3 and refresh, all the files have been uploaded. You see how quick it was uploaded, right? I think it might have missed, no, all of them are here. The CSS is up there. So if we go to certificate manager, let's see if it created a certificate or what's happening to the certificate. Okay, list of certificates. One is existing, so why is it not seeing? Probably it was trying to use it when it did not create yet. So we have to rerun that script. So let's rerun the script right here and see if it will pick it up. Because it was trying to use a certificate and it looks like it was, the certificate was not fully created because the certificate creates in a couple of moments. So you see it will add 2 resources. It's creating a CloudFront distribution now. CloudFront distribution will take a while to create, guys. So it's doing its work. So let's give it a moment. I'll just maybe, now I think we are fine. No, watching is not a problem, right? So you see it's still creating distribution. While it's creating the distribution, we'll just make sure, you see this certificate is actually issued and it's created, if we go to Route 53, so if we go back to Route 53 here, you discover that it's actually mapped that certificate to that Route 53 through that integration that we defined earlier, right? Oh no, is this Route 53? Yeah. So I was I was buying this one in the morning. I don't know why it failed. It just somehow failed to buy this one. But anyway, that's fine. So let's go to our hosted zone. And what I'm saying is it's already created this hosted zone, right? And you see it's not added the CloudFront distribution yet. It's logical that it's not existing yet because it has to first of all finish creating this CloudFront distribution before it will try to map it here. But what is it's done is that you can see a name, a domain name that has been verified here. A C name that has been verified here. This is the C name of that certificate that it created. So it's already been connected to this record here, to this record in this zone. So this hosted zone has already been mapped with our certificate, which is good. This is what we want. All right, so let's see, still creating. Remember, we already uploaded the files, so it's created for a couple of minutes. So if you go to your website now, you should actually be able to access your website, but you're not able to access it from that distribution. So if you go to S3, you actually can access your website. So you go here and go to this, but how, hold on, is this a bucket? We uploaded the files. Yep, upload was successful. So let's refresh. Okay, I was worried. All right, so let's go to this and scroll down. We can access the bucket already through here, right? You see the website is already existing, but you can't access it from Primus Learning yet. It will fail. You see, it's failing because this part has not been mapped. You see, it is still creating this distribution. So how then will you be able to access it from Route 53 Primus from the domain name, which is this, when this is still creating? You are able to access it from that endpoint, that S3 endpoint, because that's not a problem. You don't need this to access here. But for this to be accessible, for this one to be accessible, you need this. And this part is still creating. So it's just completed creating, and now it's adding that record. You see, it's creating the record. So if you go to that record, it's still creating the record. You should be able to see something popping up. If we refresh, we'll probably see an A record, which will be added here very soon. You see, this is the A record. And remember, the A record takes a moment to sync. It takes a moment to sync. So in a moment, this should complete. You see, it's completed creating, which is awesome. Now, it will take a moment to sync, and then you can start browsing. This thing is locked. Sometimes it will just take like an hour to propagate. Sometimes it propagates like in a few seconds. So let's see if this one takes long to propagate or not. So let's give it a moment. Sometimes it takes an hour, sometimes even a day. That is what TTL is. So if you look at what TTL means, all right? When a device originates an IP packet, it assigns an initial TTL value. The common default value is 64 Linux, but TTL propagation. Let's do TTL pro. Right. So you have what is called TTL propagation delay. The standard TTL series has a typical propagation delay of 10 ns. The term propagation delay was introduced in chapter 4 and will be considered, this is somebody's school material. By this, we mean that when an input change occurs, it takes 10 nanoseconds for that effect to propagate to output. But that's not usually the case. Sometimes it takes a day or so to propagate, right? So it's usually, let's see. Different people have different explanations here. But anyway, let's see if it's propagated. Refresh. Still not propagated. This one is delaying. I hate it when it delays. So this has been created. And if you go to your CloudFront, if you pick this, you see that it's working. So it's only this that is messing us up a little bit here. So if you do this, you see that this one is working as expected. You see, this one is accessible. The CloudFront distribution is working, which means this should work really fine. But now it's just the TTL that is delaying us from accessing this right here. From accessing this. You see, it's still not letting us. So let's see if we manually edit and just save again. Just do that and save. It will refresh and work. Let's see. So let's see if it syncs up and work. If not, you can delete and recreate. Just rerun, just run delete, destroy, and recreate and see. It will work. So that's how this thing is. It sometimes it propagates quickly, sometimes it doesn't. So don't be worried that it's an error. It is not an error. It's just that propagation, you know. So this one is the crazy one that is not wanting to work. What I can do is I will delete this and recreate. So I'll just go ahead and do Terraform destroy. So I'll do Terraform destroy and rerun Terraform apply. I will not change anything. Rerun Terraform apply and leave it. Once it finishes creating, I'll unpause this video again and let you know. So I'll not change anything. I'll just unpause. So the destruction is going on, right? Remember, you have to be inside this folder to run all of these guys. Remember that. So I'll just take a moment to be back. Hey guys, so I'm back. I recreated this 2 times. The first time I did, the certificate was just pending, and AWS did not issue it. The second time, it just issued normally. Right now, it just issued normally. I don't know why AWS does that when it comes to these certificates. Maybe it saw that I created them quickly, and it took some time to give the other one to propagate the other one. I don't know why. To rather to issue the other one. So let's go now to Route 53 and see if everything is looking good. Hopefully this one works now, and we query our site and it's accessible. Yes, it's accessible. You see, I've not done anything, and this time this one just worked like magic. So I did nothing. So know that when you're creating it through Terraform, you may face some errors. When you get an error, go check the certificate. If it's pending for long, know that AWS did not issue it immediately. So wait for a while. You can destroy the resources and recreate them. That way, AWS, I don't know what happens with them internally, they will create them for you. They will issue the certificate for you. So all right, the same thing that we did is the same thing that has occurred with Terraform. We created a bucket, created a certificate, created Route 53 stuff, and CloudFront, and all of them are working together, and our users are able to access our application securely through a web browser here that is secure, a secure web browser, right? Secured with a certificate, which is offered by AWS. And you see this application is working as expected. You can generate passwords and everything is looking good. So guys, this is how it works. And you can go ahead then and destroy these resources by just running AWS, no, sorry, not AWS, Terraform destroy. You can just do dash auto approve and destroy everything. And that's it. Everything will be cleaned up for you. So you take a moment to clean. These resources are cost especially the content distribution network resources, that is the CloudFront distribution resources. Make sure that you clean those up. Also make sure that you clean any certificates that you have, um, and have your account as clean as possible, because they may cost something, right? So you don't want to incur costs. You want to remain really bare minimum when it comes to cost. All right, guys. So this will just destroy everything for us, and that's it. That's how this video for today would end. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the join button if you can join to become a member of our channel. You can shoot us a question directly. You can schedule a call with us to talk about things. You can really reach out to us personally when you join our membership, uh, you know. And also, don't forget to leave us comments. Let's hear what you think. Let's see, let's experience some of the use cases that you have with S3. This was a series, three-part series for S3 itself. So we have 3 videos for S3. There are other use cases. We were exploring just those that we think we could explore, right? There are other use cases for S3, and you guys can continue to explore them. In our next videos, I think we'll be treating EC2. So learn how EC2 works, what it's all about, and we'll do a lot of work with EC2 in our next videos. So guys, stay tuned and hit the notification button so that you get notified once a video is uploaded immediately. Thanks for watching, and see you again next time. Bye-bye.